Hello, my name is Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about the questionable nature of feeling a jnani's presence. There's this ongoing myth that you'll just know an enlightened one or a jnani by their presence. You'll feel it. There's different ways it's put across, but it's always you'll feel it. You'll just know they are different, the way they feel, the experience around them, be it stillness or whatever. But let's investigate this a bit. Take Ramana Maharshi, considered widely enlightened. The experience people had around him was not consistent by any means. One of his longtime attendants and students, Annamalai Swami, he talked about feeling a deep peace around Ramana Maharshi. But he said it was not consistent because there was another longtime attendant. And he said, when asked, what do you feel around Ramana Maharshi? He said, it's hell. There's no peace, there's no contentment. It's just, the continual struggle for him, whether Ramana was around or not. And other people would meet Ramana and just think he's a nice old man. They didn't think he was particularly special. Nothing really made him stand out to him. Now, usually this is attributed to having a mature soul or not. I don't know how many times I've read, well, you'll know their presence if you've got a mature soul, or you're a mature seeker, or some variation of it's your maturity whether you'll recognize a jnani or not. They still want to say there's a presence. There's something about a jnani. But you got to be mature. And so they even, admit to it's not a consistent feeling. Now, then you get the other side of the coin, because much of what can be experienced is within the eye of the beholder. Take a documentary called Kumaré. There was a filmmaker, Vikram Gandhi, who, as I recall, was Indian American. He finished film school, wanted to make a documentary, decided to do kind of a social experiment as well. So he grew his hair out, donned on garb that, from spiritual teachers he knew in Hinduism. He imitated his grandmother's accent, and with his film crew to document his travels as a spiritual guru, went out and acquired followers. And throughout the documentary, they were talking to Vikram on the side. They would show some of his lectures and stuff he was talking about, but also they would interview the followers that he gathers along the way. And time again, there were several followers saying, "Oh, I just knew he was the one. As soon as I entered the room, he looked at me and his eyes just pierced through my soul, and I could feel it." Or others would talk about the great silence and peace they feel in his presence. And he was always astounded by this, and he didn't understand it. Because he goes, I'm not really a spiritual teacher. I'm not a guru. This is all fakery. And even at the end of the documentary, when he revealed, I'm just a filmmaker, this isn't even I don't even have this accent, this isn't how I normally dress. He cut his hair how he normally has it, and he returned to being his normal self. And of course there was a general sense of betrayal. But what I remember in some of the debrief interviews with some of the original followers is a couple of them still held on to their belief. They're like, no, he has deep spiritual powers, and I feel he is an advanced soul, and he is still my spiritual teacher. And they'd go on what they experience with his presence. And all of this was derived by the eye of the beholder, based on their concepts of what a enlightened guru would look like, what he'd sound like, how he'd act. They deemed him to fit the mold. And then when he looked at them or touched them, they felt these great things happen. It wasn't Vikram doing this. He wasn't channeling anything. He was simply touching them and smiling. And they would have these great experiences. They caused it to themselves. They felt his presence of their own accord, not his presence. It was their projection that they felt. Their own projection onto Vikram is what they felt. And this happens a lot. Whether you're a mature soul or not, whether you're spiritually advanced or not. You could meet somebody and have, oh, they fit the mold. Say Ramana Maharshi was still alive. He was a sadhu who had renounced everything, had a pretty basic garment, lived in a cave, said very little, and because of that is the stereotypical or perfect idea of guru in their head, they might have sat down and felt deep peace and went, oh, I can feel his presence. But it was them projecting themselves, their own ideals, onto Ramana. Ramana wasn't doing anything. Now, another proof I would like to point to is you might have heard in, another a teacher or a book or something. It's said that not all jnanis or enlightened ones become teachers. Some live very ordinary lives, unnoticed by the masses. Now, if enlightenment bestows some great aura or peace or, halo or, something that can be recognized by their very presence, how can it be these jnanis or enlightened ones who don't teach remain unnoticed, as it said? Surely others would know by their very presence that they're enlightened. Well, no. It's because there's nothing special about them. They're quite ordinary. Do you imagine that such jnanis or enlightened people living normal lives are actively suppressing and suppressing some inner energy or something and trying to hide and conceal their presence? Is that what you imagine? That they're doing something to remain hidden? They don't have to do anything to remain hidden. Just as Ramana Maharshi didn't do anything to become noticed. But Ramana taught, and he gained followers. And other jnanis or enlightened people may not teach and not have any followers and remain unnoticed. But neither is doing anything to gain or not gain followers. So, the very fact of being a jnani or enlightened does not give them some inner glow or presence. Otherwise, the unnoticed, normally living ones wouldn't be so. Also, what is it that's really being felt or experienced? Because whether it be Ramana Maharshi or some other great teacher, you hear people going, you go in their presence and they're greatly still, they're greatly silent, they're like, oh, I can feel the self or feel presence or feel silence or whatever the experience was. But then they go home and they can't feel it anymore. It's not the same. And every time they go in front of this teacher is when they feel it. So they associate this feeling with the teacher. But what they're associating is the body. They're attaching some experience to the body. But in non-duality, there's only the self. There's only Brahman. Ever present, omnipresent, everywhere equally. I mean, Ramana Maharshi, known as Bhagavan to his disciples. Bhagavan is not the body. Bhagavan is omnipresent, is everywhere, equally. If someone is sitting down in front of the body and feeling presence and stillness and can't feel it anywhere else, that is not Bhagavan. You're missing the point. It has nothing to do with the location of a body. That inner silence, that stillness is everywhere. And so, why this fixation to the body? The body itself is not harboring anything special. Again, what about the unrecognized ones, the ones that don't teach? They're not harboring anything special. That's why they're unrecognized. Unless they did something like teach to become noticed, they wouldn't be noticed. So, I mean, you need to consider what it is that people are actually feeling. I mean, it's a nice myth. It's nice to go, oh, I'll just know them by their presence, or they have this great stillness or aura or power within them, and they're just known. Well, that's great. But I could point to others. Vikram Gandhi being one of them when he made the film. But there's also fake teachers out there that are obviously not enlightened. But their followers feel their presence. Oh, the power within them. I can just feel it. I know he's a master. What are they feeling? It's not the teacher. It's not that being. They're feeling some kind of projection. I mean, I've actually had some people go, meditating with me, go, oh, I feel this deep presence with you. I cringe every time I hear that. Because it's not me. I don't know what they're sensing, but it's not me. It's not the self. The self is everywhere, equally. Silence, that deep inner silence and peace, is equally everywhere. It's almost like a Christian. A Christian might find that when they pray in a church, or let's say a well-known shrine or temple, church, whatever, they may find, oh, there's a deep holiness here, and the prayer seems to feel all the better. And everybody likes to attribute it to the space. Well, it's a holy space. It's more holy than others. But it could just as well be in their head. It's a well-known church or shrine, and therefore they believe it's more holy, and so they feel it more when they pray there. Just like praying at the church or praying at home. Some Christians may feel, well, when I pray at church in front of the big cross at the church, I feel so much more than at home. And that's because in their head, they've created sacred space, mundane space. And so their experience reflects this. When I'm there, I feel more in communion and more with God than here. Well, guess what? Brahman alone exists. God is everywhere. God is no more in church than at home. The self is no more in a temple than home. It doesn't matter where you are. It's everywhere equally. So what is it that they're experiencing? It's just their own projections onto people, places, and things. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is questioning the very nature of this, because whether it's an actual enlightened person, there's no consistent feeling their presence, and when they're not enlightened and just faking it, there's still this inconsistent, some feel it, some don't. But why, whether they're enlightened or not enlightened, the same experiences happen? That's because it's our own projections. It's our own projections upon Brahman, self, to think it's more so here and less so over here. It's more so there, less so here. And so it's more so with the body of Ramana or more so at the mountain of Arunachala, or it's more so at this temple or church or shrine. And so you feel more there, being with that. But if you're elsewhere, you just don't feel it the same way. It seems mundane. And that very thing blocks the thing. When you're with spiritual people, the experiences tend to be deeper. I even noticed this early in my spiritual journey. That's one of the reasons why I liked meditating with this regular meditation group. The experiences were always so much more deep and profound when I was meditating or having a spiritual experience with this group, because I associated that group as spiritual. Therefore, it allowed a deeper communion, a deeper resonance with what is everywhere there. When I went home, the meditations were always far more shallow, weren't as profound. And I know as a young seeker, I was always kind of disappointed, wondering, why is this discrepancy going on? Why can't I do it at home, but I can do it there? Never realizing it was my own beliefs. My own beliefs was, well, this is my own room. It's been my room forever. It's mundane. It's ordinary. And so I had to just try to commune or get deep within myself in that ordinariness. But if I'm with a spiritual group or at a more spiritual site, these great things would happen, or deeper communions, or something else would happen, because I was allowing it to happen, because it was fitting my mold of, that's holy, that's spiritual, this is mundane. I've fallen into this trap. And it is that division that is the illusion itself. Which is why I'm so against the whole idea of, you'll feel their presence when you know them. Because that's just fueling the idea that they're special and that there's more holiness there and less elsewhere. They're more sacred, there's more peace, contentment, whatever words you want to use. There's more there and less everywhere else. So I got to go there. I got to meet him to get as deep as I can. And then you become dependent on those people, places, and things. And you can't figure out, well, why can't I feel it anywhere else? It's in your head. You're not allowing it to happen anywhere else. You can be just as in peace, still or silent, with Bhagavan, here and now, even though the body of Ramana Maharshi has long since passed and is in India. It does not matter. Bhagavan is here and now, ever was, ever will be. And that is also the secret of some of the Hindu spiritual teachings of, if you truly get in touch with what they really are, i.e. self, when they pass, i.e. the body goes away, they're still within reach and you can still receive their blessings and contact them, so to speak. They're still your teacher after death. Why? Because the true self, what they really are, never died, never was born. They didn't go anywhere. Ramana Maharshi even said it near his death. He said, they say I'm dying, but where would I go? I'm here. So don't get so attached to the body, particularly the body of a spiritual teacher, and question if you feel their presence, what are you really feeling? Is it your own projections upon them? Is it your idea of more holiness there, less over here at home or whatever? Whatever you felt with any teacher was not because of the teacher. If we're talking about non-duality, the self, if you have a deep experience of presence and stillness and self, that's available anywhere, regardless of who's around you. It has nothing to do with the body of someone who may or may not be enlightened. Be it Ramana Maharshi or Vikram Gandhi. Could be either one. It doesn't matter. Anyways, if you got any questions, comments, please post below. But until next time, thank you much.